Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Life of Artist podcast. Today, my guest is Daniel. He's a UK-based actor and the host from Starving Artist podcast. So before you're going to dive into our conversation, please make sure to follow and subscribe his channel. And let's dive in. Life of Artist podcast. Today, as who you are as Daniel, what people should know about you?
What should people know about me? My name is Daniel Crespin. I've just turned 30. I'm based in London. I've been an actor since I was a kid, really. I started doing musical theatre in the tours when they'd tour to the regions in the UK when I was about 6. So I've been doing it most of my life, but I trained at Lambda, graduated in 2017. I've been doing it ever since. And yeah, what else should you know about me? I love music. I love podcasting. I like art of all forms, to be honest, not just acting.
Yeah. And you mentioned you went to the acting school. So what was the motivation or leap of faith that you wanted to pursue acting school?
Yeah. So for me, it was, I sort of didn't really, I didn't really know that you could be an actor. It was a weird one. At sort of 14, I kind of, it just didn't occur to me, you kind of think of actors as film stars at that age. And that just seems like so out of reach for most people. And it is. But I started, when I was 14, I started going to a youth group, like a youth drama group, where the people there were working actors, and they were really inspirational. One in particular called Chris Donnelly, who I've since worked with. And I just kind of realized, I could do this for a living. Amazing. And the whole point of the youth group kind of post 16 was, if you want to try and audition for drama school, we'll help you do it. And from that point on, from 16, really, I was like, right, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this with the rest of my life.
That's a quite of
yeah,
challenge.
I know, right?
And you said you graduated in 2017, and I wonder, because I went to schools as well, what is aftermath and reality after being in acting school, when you're out of this peaceful place of trying errors or do whatever you want, having amazing place like William Shakespeare, going into the reality and might not having the access to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real kind of, for some people, in my drama school, you get lucky and you get picked up by a very big agent, and then you never stop working. And there's a few people in my year that happened to. I wasn't one of them. And it was really like being out of a sort of protective bubble, for better or for worse. I sort of, you're so used to the structure of drama school and working towards this one goal and working very hard and doing what you're passionate about every day. And then suddenly you've got no structure and you've got to find a normal job and you've got to try and figure out, okay, well, what's my place in this industry? In what ways am I castable? And I hate that word, but you kind of have to figure it out. So it was a real shock to the system initially. And I think it took me a few years really to kind of get over that and get used to, okay, well, this is life now. I think, there's benefits and there's drawbacks of drama school. And I think the sort of, the fact that you're in this bubble of just the world outside you kind of doesn't exist because it can't, because you're there, stupid amounts of hours in a week, is good. But as an artist, I think it's not conducive to you making very interesting art, because all you're experiencing is being around other actors all the time. And I think if there's one thing that will make you a boring actor, is it if you only ever talk to actors about acting. So I think it made me get creative in different ways. I sort of started playing music again, which I hadn't done for years. I started writing poetry and writing a bit more. And so I think I became a more fully rounded creative after drama school. But yeah, the first first year was brutal. First 3 years were quite tough, to be honest. Yeah, it's a real shock to the system.
But like I don't know, like how in UK, but in US, like you have on the end of like the final like show you do, and you do have those showcases. How
Mm-hmm.
the reality of those showcases actually people have an agent after that, or is just showcase for being a showcase?
No, I mean, I think it depends on the drama school. I was lucky in that I went to what's considered a very good drama school in this country. It's the oldest one, I think, in the world, definitely in this country.
Mm.
So it's been around a long time, and the showcase was very well attended by big casting directors, big agents. I got no interest whatsoever from Showcase. Mate, I was really pleased with the
Oh.
scene we did, but the
Mm.
guy who I was doing my duologue with, lovely guy and great actor, who was like kind of the golden boy of the showcase. All the agents wanted him. He's a great actor. He's stunningly beautiful. He's got great blue eyes, and I think they were all just looking at him. And I don't think they even
In the
acknowledged my
air.
existence. So yeah, that was quite brutal. Because you kind
Mm.
of, yeah, the showcase is the one opportunity. I mean, you don't really get that in your career ever again, where all these people are in a one room. But it's the nature of the beast. You can't. I was really pleased with the piece. I thought we did a really good job. I just clearly wasn't flavor of the month that month. I was lucky that I got an agent from a show that I did after Showcase. And to be honest,
Mm.
a lot of people already had agents. Some people already had agents. The showcase is weird. It's like a cattle market, Like I remember when I was in first year, we went to see the showcase of the third years at the
Mm.
time, and what they did was they sat us sort of, it's in this big theatre, and the agents are all in the stalls, and we're all in the circle. And there was one guy. This kind of summed up what showcases are like for me. There was one guy who, in the scene, he has to take his top off and throw it somewhere. And as soon as he took his top off, he's this really muscular guy. All the agents' heads went down and notes in, so they were clearly making a note. Very good body. So it's
Mm.
like, it's literally like a cattle market. You just kind of like, well, what do we need this year? We need a ginger girl. We need a tall blonde guy.
Mm.
All that stuff.
But that's kind of reality when you go like into auditions. Like you kind of like you have a tack on you. You're gonna be in their eyes. Oh, okay, she looks similar, right? So like
Mm.
you kind of like piece of meat, to be honest, in the market sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, for sure. I think it is unfortunately an industry that is completely non-creative. Well, it's a creative industry run by non-creative people. So, in my
mm,
opinion, generally it's run by money people because they've got the money, so you can make things. And so they're selling you as a product and what's marketable, and they don't really give a shit whether you're good as. Can I swear, by the way? Sorry,
of
just realized
course,
that.
absolutely. We have
Fabulous,
freedom of internet.
wonderful. Um, yeah, I think once you accept that the reason you wanted to get into acting or any creative form in the first place, that beautiful, pure instinct is completely the opposite to the way the industry operates. It kind of helps you
Mm,
be less
I agree.
angry towards it. It is what it is, and it fucking sucks. But it's always been that way. It's been that way since the dawn of Hollywood. It was always
Mm,
what do they look like? What's sellable about them? Can we narrow them into a box? All that stuff, and it's totally uncreative, but it is what it is,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, we have to deal with it, or like you can choose another path, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
in terms of that, like, what do you think separates good actor from a bad actor, or do the thing like that exist in your opinion?
I think it's partly subjective. I do think it
Mm,
exists. What makes a good actor? That's a really hard question, and sort of something I think that I love about acting as an art form, if it is an art form, is the mystery of it. You can kind of you can learn to be a really great. I'm a guitarist. I'm not a particularly great guitarist, but you can learn to be a very good guitarist, even with very little talent. You can learn to be, if you practice non-stop, you'll be a decent guitar player eventually. Kind of can't do that with acting. You can take what's already there and make it better, and build on your craft and all that. But if you haven't got it in the first place, you kind of there's no conjuring it up out of nothing, I think. So I think for me, it's I think good actors are comfortable being vulnerable. I think there has to
Mm,
be a vulnerability there to take risks, especially in rehearsal rooms, and then just to be vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable place to be in front of a camera or in front of an audience. I think also just this maybe isn't distinct to acting, but any creative form, but especially acting, I think just there's you kind of feel things very deeply, or you have to feel things very deeply. Things need to impact you in a certain way, and that's tough sometimes, especially if you don't have a creative outlet. You know, I
mm,
always kind of explain it as you kind of like an open wound to the world in a way. Um, and if you don't know how to deal with that, and you can't see that there's beauty in the pain, then it can overwhelm you.
mm.
And it did for years for me. You know, I'm 30 now, but I came out of drama school at 21. And looking back, I was like a little kid, really. Yeah.
It's kind of like, like hard because like the emotional side, like you have to be emotional, but to which extent to keep yourself healthy, right?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is Kate Fleetwood, who's an English, very, very good English, primarily stage actress, but has been in loads of stuff. She's really great. And I listened to an interview with her once, and she said something. She said, your body doesn't know you're lying to it. So if you're playing
Mm,
King Lear, or you're playing, Medea or something, in Medea kills her kids and, all this stuff in 3 hours you're going through. And if you're doing it well, you're feeling it, but your body doesn't know you're lying to it. So you're still getting the adrenaline, you're still getting the sorrow, the anxiety, and it's really hard, especially for stage. I think if you're doing that 8 times a week, that's really tough. It's really tough, and I still kind of I don't know. I haven't figured out how to deal with that yet. I suppose in some ways it's an unhealthy way of approaching it, but I kind of just completely immerse myself. If I'm doing a play for three
mm.
months, mostly my life is that play for 3 months, and I kind of stick with it. And so, but that's not that healthy. So hopefully I'll find some better ways to deal with it going forward.
I have a question here because, like, you're doing a play like 8 times a week. So you kind of like keeping yourself in the role for 3 months, or you
Mm.
are trying to, do a play and then, okay, that's my other life. I'll continue doing other
Mm.
way. Or you keep like kind of like smashing those two lives.
I think, oh, I think the way I approach stuff is in rehearsals and preparing for a role. For sure, I'm kind of me and the character don't become one. I'm not that method, but in my own
Mm,
private time, I'm quite method, and I'm trying to get into the head of the character, and I'm listening to the music they listen to, read the books all this stuff, trying to figure out how they inhabit the world and their space and all that. I think if you did that as an actor on stage for 3 months, 8 shows a week, not breaking character, you'd go mental. And here's a good
mm,
example. Daniel Day-Lewis stopped doing
yeah.
stage years before he stopped doing screen, because he played Hamlet, and he's so method that he started hallucinating and thinking he was seeing his dead father on stage at night. So, it's I don't think it's possible to do that, but I still struggle. I mean, it still takes me. I don't sleep until the very early hours of the morning if I am doing a show, because I need hours to kind of just decompress and get back to myself, I think, in a way. Hmm.
That interesting, but like I think we have to go to the other part of like the acting industry, which is rejection, I believe, and not a lot of people talking about the real side of like actors like us who are not on the billboards all day
Hmm.
long. what do you do, or like what is your approach to rejection and how you handle, and like what kind of things you do to handle mentally the rejection?
Mm. It's a real difficult one. Um, I always think if you can last a year in this industry, you probably face more rejection than most people face in their entire life. And humans don't like rejection. So you're a really,
Right.
I think everyone listening, if you can do this for more than a year, you're a strong individual and you deserve to give yourself a pat on the back, to be honest. Um, it's hard. I think you have to realize that it's not personal, and usually it's not about how good you are. Unfortunately, is the honest to god truth. There are a million factors going into casting decisions, most of which are not to do with how good you are. And usually, if you get to a recall stage of something, you're good enough to do the part. They've seen you, they think you're good enough to do the part. It then just comes down to factors beyond your control. So I think that's the way I deal with it. I kind of go, I have enough belief in my own ability that I kind of don't take it personally. I just know it is. It's frustrating, but it doesn't it rarely gets me down anymore. I think I do a few little techniques, just like, it's such a cliche one, but like, as soon as I'm out of the audition, I throw the script in the bin, forget about
Oh,
it.
I do the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely
Just
the
throw it in the
same.
bin. There we are. It's now out of you. Everything you can control is gone now. If the call comes, great, I've got a job. If you don't hear, hey, there we are. Um, the other thing I do is I just kind of get into my head that rather than seeing it as an audition, I see it as kind of a opportunity to act and an opportunity to show them, well, this is my interpretation of the character on, a week's notice. If you get a week's notice, often you don't. Um, this is my interpretation. I hope you like it. If you don't, if it's not for you, fine. That's not what you were looking for. I'm not going to be for everybody, and maybe I'm not right for every part. I'm certainly not right for every part. So I think that helps with the rejection. But I think it has to come down to self belief at the end of the day. And I do know, I know many actors who really struggle with that self belief and the belief in their own ability. And I don't know how you do this industry if you have that. I couldn't do it. I'd have given up years ago, to be honest.
Yeah, but like on the end of the day, I think, like, I know, like, I've worked so hard not doing that anymore, but I used to compare myself to other actors, especially after school. Like, someone got a play or someone went to like do a big TV shows. I was like, why? Like, why I
Mm.
cannot like get even to into this room? Like, I was like
Yeah.
keep myself in this like crazy area. Like, what should I do? Like, because I do have an accent, and like, I was in US for so many years, and I was like, can I change my accent? Probably I can work on it, but that's my identity on the end of the day.
Yeah, of
I'm
course. It's your
an actor.
identity. And also, if they want an American actress, there's plenty of them out there, so they're going to go for that. So I think you have to, as difficult as it is, you have to stick with your own kind of authentic identity,
But
because
isn't that
that's
hard to achieve? You think?
very hard to achieve. It's very hard to achieve. Yeah. It's so easy to get typecast in the industry, but the industry is so hard that, to be honest, like, I've had similar experiences to you. Like, for my podcast, I'm interviewing a friend of mine that I was at drama school with, who was nominated for a BAFTA and has never
Mm,
stopped working since we left. And it's for years I was with seeing people like them and others really succeed while I wasn't hitting the heights that I wanted to achieve at
mm.
the time, made me really bitter and like, well, why? And there just came a time where I was like, there is no reason, really. There's not many reasons. I saw enough years graduate at one of the top drama schools in the world to know that usually the best actor doesn't do that well.
Yeah.
It's almost always the case. And that they look for different things every year. Every year agencies and the industry are, fashion's changed. They're looking for different things.
Yeah.
But I do believe, I think stubbornness is a real ally in this industry of trying to build a career as an actor. If you can be stubborn and stick with it, you'll work if you're good. You'll work, you know, if you work hard, you stick with it, you'll eventually work. It might, but you can't control, you know, yeah, I'd love to have won an Olivier Award and been in Hollywood films
Mm.
by now, but you know, it just hasn't happened, and is looking less likely that it will happen. But I don't know. You know, you never know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is. I think you know that cliche quote: "Comparison is the thief of joy," and it is. And but also, when it comes to the industry, trying to find a rhyme or a reason with the decisions they make is just going to cause so much unnecessary suffering that you've just got to kind of I kind of look at it in like a almost a laughing way now. I'm just like, this is a batshit crazy industry that, you know, you can't second guess it. So you just got to try and be yourself and bring to the roles you play everything you can, and enjoy the work. I think that's the thing. You know, in whatever, I spent quite a lot of my first few years out of drama school you know, not enjoying the jobs I was doing not because they
Mm.
weren't good jobs, but because I felt like this isn't where I should be. I should be at the Royal Shakespeare Company by now, and I should be this, and this isn't putting my career as forward as quickly as it should be. And I missed I missed being able to do what I love. You know, there was
Mm.
one tour I went on, and I fucking hated the whole thing. And I thought it was a great play with a great director, and you know, it was really fun. It should have been really fun, but I was going, this is, you know, I was bitter, and I was comparing myself to other people. So I think, you know, if you get an opportunity to act, what a joy! Not many people get to do that, and if you get paid for it,
Mm.
even better. You know.
But do you think that was ego, like keep pushing in your brain to do greater things?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, yeah, it's all ego, but everything's ego, really, isn't it? I
Mm.
suppose our sense of identity is ego. I think we are ruled by it, unfortunately. I It's hard to not compare yourself to other people, and it's hard. Yeah, it absolutely was ego then, for sure. That kind of, I should be doing something bigger and better because I'm bigger and better than this, was not what I would have said, but in my heart was what I was thinking. And that's shitty behavior and a shitty attitude to have. Um, yeah, I think an ego is a really, you know, there's a lot of big egos who make great art, but in the actual creative process, I think ego's a real um, dangerous thing with creativity. I think you've got to kind of get out of your own way because the work's bigger than you. And if the work's just all about you, it's probably going to be not very interesting to anyone else but you.
But you know, I have a question here because I think like I saw a lot of actors going down the hill with that. Like, what do you think? Like, I think it's kind of ego on the end of the day, but because of their like brain keep working and working, like they go to the like drug abuse or the alcohol just to forget for the sake of forgetting for a while. What do
Mm.
you think? Like, why we, as being creative and being out there into the world, trying our best to work in our industry, why do you think people choosing this like easier pathway of going into alcohol or drug abuse?
I mean, I I think it comes down to the fact that what we were talking about earlier of kind of like, in order to
Mhm.
be good at this, you have to kind of feel things a little bit more deeper and be maybe a little bit more exposed to the darkness of the world than the average accountant is, for example. Um,
Mm.
and with, you know, you've seen that throughout history. Even the incredibly successful artists, I mean, most of the incredibly successful authors of all time have been fucking drunks, haven't they? So there's something, you know, and they were able to exercise some of those demons by making their art. Whereas I think for actors, we don't get, you know, unless you're very lucky, you don't get to do it that often. So
Mm.
if you don't have that outlet, the pain just builds up and builds up. And I can speak for it from experience. I'm 3 years sober now, but my 20, like a lot of my early 20s.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It was, yeah, I mean, I should have done it earlier, but it got done eventually. But yeah, my early, from 22 to about 27, it was a haze of, yeah, just trying to numb yourself, because the industry can get you down, and the feelings of nothing's ever gonna change, and no, I have no power to change it. And I know what you mean when you say the easy path. It's a quick fix. But
Exactly.
for anyone out there who thinks they should try it as an easy fix, like, if it becomes a problem, it then just creates a million problems worth, and it's very, very far more painful than just sitting with the pain and allowing it to pass. And I've spent the first year of my sobriety trying to make amends for just the damage I caused myself and others with it. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but it's artists have always been like that. I think it's just because in order to do what we do, we have to see the world in a certain way and feel it on a level maybe a little bit more keenly than most people do, and that hurts sometimes. That's not a comfortable place to be always.
And like coming into like mental health awareness and support for us as an actors, what do you think other like production companies or like casting directors or any people from the industry, do you think they help us, or do you think they're not doing anything in that terms, or do you think things are starting to change?
It's a difficult one. I mean,
It's
I
very
don't. Yeah, it's very difficult. I don't want to. I feel almost like I'm speaking without maybe the full awareness of what certain casting directors or certain industry professionals are doing. Maybe there are those out there who really care. I'm sure there are. That's
of course, absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
sure there are. I've met some lovely casting directors and stuff, but the things that I know about certain charitable organizations involved in the arts and certain stuff from Equity have set up some really good stuff, but that's not the industry. That's support around that.
Yeah.
That's support that's needed because of what the industry is like. So from within the industry itself, my and I feel I'm going to caveat this with maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm often wrong,
It's
but
okay to be wrong, like.
yeah, but I feel like the gesturing of mental health support, and no, we're all very aware of mental health now, and you know,
Mm.
is another thing that the industry does, of just making a token gesture to look like they're doing something. I think it's the same. I work for a cooperative agency, so I see a lot of the
Mm.
casting breakdowns come through, and I see what's happening. And it even with certain things around social justice and castings for people of so-called authentic castings, they don't actually care if it's authentic. Cooperative agency, I'm a bit more I don't know, don't trust the industry as much as maybe I should. Maybe I'm a bit, or maybe I'm just a pessimist, but it feels like another token gesture. And I think casting directors, if there's one thing you could do just to really, really help actors, it's just to send an email saying whether you've got the role or not. And it's as
Oh
simple
yeah,
as
that
that.
would
And
be
I,
like, that's
it's
so much
not
needed. That's so much needed to like just have like a clarity.
just to be made to feel like a human being. I think this is
Yeah.
the problem with being an actor in general. It's or a creator. Musicians are it's kind of the same for musicians and stuff. There's so many people wanting to do it and so few opportunities that people in positions of power think, well, if they object to it, or if they don't want to do it, well, someone else will do it. You can go fuck yourself,
Mm.
kind of attitude. And that's a dehumanizing attitude. And I think that as much as maybe not all of them are meaning it in this way, and I know they're dealing with a lot and sending an email, but just send a blanket. It's easy. I'm rubbish with technology, and I know how to send a group email to people saying
Yeah.
sorry you didn't get the part. Doesn't have to be personalized, nothing. Just say whether we've got the part or not. acknowledge our existence and acknowledge that we took time out, a lot of time out, to prepare for that role, and get the tube in. I'm in London. Get the underground in to central London at peak time to do an audition for you. Just acknowledge that. I think that would be a first step. If that could happen, then maybe I'd take it more seriously that the industry cares about our mental health. I don't think they do. I think there's so many people, a lot of them look at us like cannon fodder. There's so many of us that we're just a nuisance to most of them.
So how do you think we could protect ourselves? Because, like we are in the other season of life, like in the 30s, so I think we overcome a lot of things. But for younger people, what do you think they should do?
It's tough. I'm speaking here now as kind of 30 and still got a long way to go, but my mindset's changed a lot since I was in my early 20s, and I think a lot of it's trial and error. So you've got to go through heartbreak to realize what it's like. But I don't know if I can give that much meaningful advice. I think to protect yourself, self-belief, as I've said, belief in your own abilities. If you know you're good at what you do, and you know you love what you do, and you're passionate about it, and you work hard, then you deserve to be in this industry and keep going. If it's not causing you too much unhappiness, keep going. So self-belief. What's worked for me eventually is just kind of a sort of feeling towards the industry of just to kind of almost, it's such a strange industry and such a ridiculous industry at times that I'm just not willing to try and please people anymore. For years I sent thousands of emails getting barely any responses, and now I'm just like, do you know what? It's not worth my time, and it's not worth my energy. So if that helps anyone, that might help someone. What else can you do to protect yourself? Be creative in other ways. Find something that brings you joy outside of acting. One, because it'll make you happier as a person, but two, it'll make you a better actor. Because as I said at the start, if you're an actor who just talks about acting and just cares about acting and only hangs around with actors and talks about acting, you're going to be really boring when you have to play any part that's not an actor. So
no, I agree, because just want to interrupt you, there's so many people that they're like in the closed bubble, and they're hanging out with each other, but the real inspiration, they're coming from other people, that people we don't know, or people, for example, working in the meat shop, right? She might have amazing features and the way of speaking. We should really take inspiration from outside world to make ourselves in a creative process smoother, or
completely
taking those inspirations.
I think it's about living your life, trying to live a creative life, and that doesn't mean you have to get up in the morning and write for 4 hours. It just means stopping for a second when you're having your coffee in the morning and a cigarette, and just looking around you and seeing, there's endless interesting things outside that door. There's loads of people in London. If I wanted to people watch, I could people watch all day, and it would be very interesting. I think try and live a creative life, and get interested in, take inspiration from music and other art forms, not just films and theatre and stuff, literature and all that stuff. So just, I think, see yourself as a creative first and an actor second is something that worked for me. Might not work for everyone, but has worked for me and kept me kind of sane.
So I think we're coming to the last question that I have for you. Right now, in this season of your life, what keep you inspired, or what are things you're working on currently?
That's a very good question. What keeps me inspired? So I love music. Music is always a massive part of my approach to acting as well. I listen to different types of music for different characters. I listen to music before I go on stage. I've always loved music. So I'm absolutely obsessed with Bob Dylan. If you can see behind there, there we are.
Oh my goodness, it's a lovely one.
So I went to see him in concert on Sunday. So his work always keeps me, I always find new things listening to his music. I'm working on a one-man play at the moment, which is really, writing's been a very difficult thing for me when it comes to writing for plays or short films or anything like that, anything to do that's sort of within our industry. I found it really difficult, but I'm trying to kind of get through my fear of that. And something that's keeping me really inspired is I've just started mixed martial arts. So I'm learning jujitsu and I'm learning Muay Thai, boxing and wrestling and stuff. And I'm kind of obsessed with it. I've really enjoyed it. I'm really new to it and it's very humbling and I get my ass kicked every time I go. But it's nice. It's like you start from zero and there's so much to learn. There's an endless journey ahead of you of stuff you can learn and things you can get better at. So that's keeping me inspired. And my friends, the people around me, I keep a good circle of good people who are, a lot of whom are also artists in their, in different fields, or were artists and have gone and done, gone into other fields. So I think, the people around me. I'm sure there's other stuff, but yeah, it's always, I'm constantly surrounding myself with art, to be honest. Yeah, it was listening to music, reading, always, yeah.
All right, Daniel, thank you for your time and like such an inspiration for today.
Oh, thank you, Carolina.
And
Thank you for having me.
absolutely. Thank you for listening. And make sure to follow and subscribe. And if something was very interesting to you, please let me know in the comment. And see you around.